how's it going everybody? It's Tanner here and welcome back to another Ninjago discussion video here on the channel. In today's video we're going to be discussing my picks for the 15 Ninjago villains, of course ranking them from worst to best. Now, just a little bit of a disclaimer before we get started doing this here. Everything I say in this video will be specifically my own opinion and should not be taken as the objective choice for ranking these Ninjago villains. You can rank them in any way you see fit. I myself will obviously be putting my favorites on the top of the list and my least favorites towards the bottom because it is my own list and my own opinion. You are free to disagree, and after the video is done, feel free to go ahead and leave your own picks for the ranking list down below in the comment section. Also, there are more than 15 villains in Ninjago. These are just the main villains, or who I consider to be main villains, so you won't be seeing side villains like other members of the Serpentine on here besides Pythor, and you probably won't be seeing other, secondary antagonists such as Nadakhan's crew or even Klaus. I wanted to keep these, restricted to the main core Ninjago villains. And just real quick, I figured we'd do another one of these videos because I know a lot of you guys really enjoyed the last ranking video that I did in this format, which of course was ranking the Ninjago final battles. This one will be ranking, of course, the Ninjago villains from worst to best in a similar kind of format to see how this goes here. And who knows, maybe after this video I will be doing more like these in the future, depending on what you guys would like. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into my picks, starting with number 15. Now here in the number 15 spot we have the Iron Baron. Now the Iron Baron is so low on the list because he really didn't have that much development during the 9th season of Ninjago, which is where he debuted. He was obviously a counterpart or a secondary villain to Ninjago's Garmadon and Harumi. Of course he represented the Oni and Dragon realm with his dragon hunters or whatever they were called. I forgot. See, I forgot what they were called because these guys really don't matter that much. The Iron Baron really wasn't that big of a villain. He did, I guess, cause the ninja some sort of grief during season 9, but they obviously bounced back from that, and he really didn't have that much significance in the season itself, so that's why he's down here at the bottom of the list. Definitely one of my least favorite Ninjago villains. Next up in the number 14 spot we have General Kozu. Kozu, in my opinion, really isn't that great of a villain for a number of reasons. For instance, he really doesn't have many speaking lines outside of your generic Stone Warrior talk, so we really don't get to see a lot of his personality of sorts. We really don't get to understand who he is as a character. During the 2nd season of Ninjago, where he debuted, he was sort of just another henchman character for Garmadon and the Overlord. In that sense, during the 2nd season of Ninjago, or at least the second half, he was basically, the 3rd most important villain behind the Overlord and Garmadon, which is really kind of disappointing. Of course, he is the leader of these Stone Warriors, but that really doesn't make up for the fact that Kozu as a character really doesn't have a character, and that's why he's down here at the bottom of the list. Next up, we have the Omega. So the Omega, in my opinion, really doesn't sound like that intriguing of a villain. Now, as a quick disclaimer, just like I did with my final battle ranking video, I have not yet seen season 10, so I must go ahead and say that maybe I'm missing something here with the Omega. However, I have heard from many people in the Ninjago community that the Omega just really isn't that great, and I did see some clips, and he doesn't really look that great either, from what I've seen. And from what I've seen, he definitely has a hard time, I guess, communicating his voice to the audience. I guess he does sound kind of muffled in the way that he talks, and that's not really good for a villain, and I guess overall he's just kind of disappointing. He's sort of just the overall Oni leader and nothing more and nothing less, so that's kind of disappointing. I was expecting him to be sort of, quite a big villain, but I guess not, so that's why he's down here at the bottom of the list. Next up, we have Samukai, the skeleton leader and the original Ninjago villain next to Garmadon. Samukai was one of the first villains in Ninjago to have 4 arms, a staple which many Ninjago villains will continue to possess in future seasons. And yeah, Samukai as a character really doesn't have, again, that much of a character. Of course, he was present in the overall pilot season of Ninjago way back in 2011, and he was sort of effective there. He sort of just followed the ninja around and didn't really, focus too much on completing his own goals until the end, where he tried to betray Garmadon. Of course, we know that that did not end well for him. He popped up in Day of the Departed again, and we were reminded as to what exactly Samukai was as a character, and he really wasn't that great, in my opinion. There are definitely better villains out there than Samukai, and I'm kind of disappointed that the overall Skullkin race or people really weren't that impressive to begin with as well, so that's why Samukai really isn't one of my favorites. Next up, we have Master Yang, of course, the ghostly sensei, which possessed Cole in Season 5 and basically turned him into a ghost. And we saw later in Day of the Departed, Master Yang sort of went ahead and trained Cole a little bit in a, a little bit of a trial there. He sort of just tested him a little bit while also trying to stall to get to his human form again while jumping through the rift. And Day of the Departed is one of the only seasons, or one of the only things in Ninjago really, where Yang has had a chance to shine as a character. We learn a little bit more of his backstory and we learn a little bit more of what he's about, but what he's really about isn't really that interesting to me personally. It really does kind of suck that Master Yang is a great historical figure for the Ninjago series as it is, because he's really not that great of a villain in my own opinion. He's kind of lacking in most parts, and I really don't care for him that much either, so that's why he's sort of towards the bottom as well. Next up, General Cryptor. Cryptor basically has the same problems that Kozu has in terms of being a general of a Ninjago army, but in my opinion, Cryptor is a little bit better than Kozu, because Cryptor at least has some sort of personality, as we can see in the final battle of Season 3, the final rebooted battle. He sort of was just, there off the side, and he got easily distracted by Nia, so at least he has a little bit more of a character is what I'm trying to say, as opposed to, for example, Kozu, who really just doesn't. And Cryptor is a Nindroid, and Nindroids are really cool. I like them a lot, so that's why I prefer him a little more over some of the other general leaders. Next up, we have Krux, one of the time twins of Ninjago, and one of the antagonists during the 7th season of Ninjago. And again, Krux is interesting because Krux was around for a long time, at least in the context of Ninjago. He was sort of posing as Dr. Saunders, who of course ran a museum. We saw him in Day of the Departed, and little did we know that Dr. Saunders' character would grow to be Krux, one of the time twins, and again, one of the main villains of Season 7. Now, Krux, just like Acronix, is really cool because, they're twins, but you can easily separate them. Krux, I'd say, is more logical in his thinking, while Acronix is more brutal in that sense. And Krux, again, becomes one of those maniacal villains that is all about planning and strategy, which I really do appreciate. And Krux, for that reason, is one of my favorite Ninjago villains, I'd say. He's definitely better than some of the other villains. However, Acronix is better than Krux, in my opinion, and you'll see Acronix on this list later on as we continue on here. Next up, Pythor, the legendary Serpentine Anaconda leader / warrior, whatever you want to call him. Now, Pythor is a very intriguing villain for a number of reasons. Again, like Krux before him, Pythor proceeds to plan out a lot of his strategies before he attacks the ninja or whatever he's attempting to do. And in that sense, I really do like Pythor's character. I think he's really cool. I think he's really well done as a character. And again, he's one of the most important villains out of the entirety of Ninjago. He's made appearances during Season 1, 3, 4, Day of the Departed, and so on and so forth. He's been in a lot of Ninjago stories, as the line has gone on. It's been a little bit since we saw Pythor recently, but, the staple that he's left in Ninjago and the actual impact that he's had in the overall story is more than enough reason to go ahead and put him towards the top of the list, in my own opinion. Next up, Harumi. I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering where Harumi would be on this list, and here she is. Harumi as a character is really interesting to me personally because I love her character. I think she's really cool. Of course, I did kind of predict that she was going to be a villain, and I also predicted her death, so I guess that's something. And yeah, Harumi's dead, so I don't really expect her to be coming back anytime soon, as much as people may want her to come back. But of course, we did get a little bit of a backstory for Harumi in the 8th season of Ninjago, where she debuted, and let me just say, Harumi probably has one of the better motivations that I've seen from an actual Ninjago villain. Out of all of the Ninjago villains, Harumi's motivation is very cool, and it also connects to one of the first seasons of Ninjago, so that's awesome as well. Basically, her parents were killed during the Great Devourer incident that ravaged the Ninjago city during the first season, and basically all Harumi wants is revenge against the ninja, which that's amazing. And she also idolizes Garmadon because Garmadon is the villain that ended up destroying the giant snake. Harumi was really cool as a character, and I really liked her, and it's a shame that she's sort of dead now, but I can see why they decided to go ahead and kill Harumi off, because of course she's not really, that important anymore. She had her time to shine, and now it's time to let other villains shine in her place. Next up, Acronix, the second of the Time Twins. Now, Acronix I prefer over Krux, again, because Acronix is all that more interesting of a character. Acronix is really cool. I like the sort of struggle that he has with Master Wu in that sense. I mean, both of the Time Twins do have a grudge against Master Wu, but Acronix was one of the first people in Season 7 that we saw as a villain, and he really left a mark. I mean, Acronix, again, is much more brutal in his tactics as opposed to his twin brother, and Acronix in general is that much cooler of a character in my opinion. I love Acronix in Season 7, I think he was really cool, and he definitely is the better of the two Time Twins in my own opinion. Next up, the Overlord. Now, this villain is very, very important to the overall Ninjago story, but he's not my favorite. He's only sitting here at number 5. but the Overlord, again, is a very important villain throughout Ninjago's run. He fought against the first Spinjitzu Master, which preceded basically all of Ninjago, and his, I guess, darkness will go ahead and influence all the other villains moving forward, as he is the overall definition of darkness, at least in terms of Ninjago. He is certainly intriguing as a villain. Again, I really do like him quite a bit. I love the way that the Overlord has been utilized in Ninjago, though I do wish he would come back at some point. I mean, he was in seasons 2 and 3, but I feel like his story definitely is not over yet, considering how he is the eternal darkness for Ninjago. I definitely would expect him to come back later on, though, and I hope we'll get to see him again very soon. Next up, Nadakhan. Nadakhan, in my opinion, is a very underrated villain. I don't feel a lot of people talk about Nadakhan too much, though I do think he is one of the better Ninjago villains out there, and that is specifically because of how, again, scary and intimidating he is as a villain. Nadakhan is insanely terrifying, especially with his ability to go ahead and capture your soul and put them in the little teapot. That is horrifying. And Nadakhan definitely pulls off that villain aesthetic more than, many of the other Ninjago villains, or at least in a better sense that way. Nadakhan was an evil Ninjago genie that has been around for a very long time in terms of the story, and again, he sort of had a very big goal in Season 6 in recreating the fallen realm of Ninjago, and like Harumi, Nadakhan's motivation is very cool and very apparent, and, it gives him a little bit more development in that sense. Nadakhan definitely is not a terrible bad guy, but he definitely still is a villain, but his admirations and, his motivation in general is very cool to see, and it does make a lot of sense for his character. And even though I don't feel like Nadakhan is definitely the most evil Ninjago villain out there, he's certainly one of the most intimidating, and that's why he's towards the top of the list. In third place, we have Morro. Morro is a fan-favorite character for many reasons, and I know a lot of you guys do enjoy Morro as it is, and I enjoy him also. He is my third favorite Ninjago villain for a very good reason. Morro, like Nadakhan, is not the most evil villain out there. Morro definitely has some redemption towards him, especially in later seasons and throughout his later appearances, such as in Day of the Departed, and in, towards the end of Season 5, he sort of started to turn that way. And Morro, in general, has a very strong relationship with Master Wu, as Morro was one of Wu's first students, and he originally was trained to become the Green Ninja. So right away there, we have some good motivation for Morro's villainy, and we have some good backstory for his character as well. So Morro, in general, is a very strong villain, and he was great during Season 5. He's one of the best parts of the 5th season, and he will always be one of the most memorable villains throughout all of Ninjago moving forward. In second place, we have Master Chen. Master Chen is a villain that I love very, very much. I think he is wonderful in terms of the way that he acts, and he's one of the reasons why Season 4 is one of my favorite Ninjago seasons. Master Chen is insane. This man is absolutely fueled by insanity, and I cannot be more happy. Master Chen is a wonderful villain. His main goal during the 4th season of Ninjago was to absorb all of the ninja and all of the other elemental masters' powers to basically turn himself and his army into Anaconda, because he loves the Anaconda for some reason. He also had a big part to play in the Ninjago Serpentine War, which was a war that ravaged a lot of Ninjago and carried a lot of elemental power in terms of the elemental masters. So it makes a lot of sense that, Master Chen used this as sort of a catalyst for his role in Season 4. And I really like, again, I like Master Chen. I like how he acts. I like his staff. I like his personality. I think he's awesome. And overall, he's one of my favorite Ninjago villains for a multitude of reasons. And yeah, Master Chen, there's not really a lot I can say about him anymore. He's just wonderful, and, we saw him pop up in Day of the Departed again, as we did with most Ninjago villains, but I felt like he was sort of underutilized, and he definitely shines during Season 4, where he debuted. And in the number 1 spot, we have Lord Garmadon. Now, the reason I love Garmadon so much is because of just how interesting he is as a character. I say that a lot, I feel, but Garmadon, I really mean it. If you look at Garmadon's track record, he was basically the son of the first Spinjitzu Master, or at least one of them, and he fell victim to just the Great Devourer's evil venom. And throughout then, he's been a staple of Ninjago moving forward. He is the main Ninjago villain. If I were to go ahead and choose just one Ninjago villain that would represent the entire series, it would be Garmadon. Garmadon is amazing. I love how he basically has become his Ninjago movie self in the most recent Ninjago seasons, seasons 8, 9, and 10. I feel like he's a lot more comedic in that sense, and he's a lot more fun to watch, and he's very self-aware of what he is, which I really do appreciate. And again, movie Garmadon, his personality is cool as well, and we can't forget the original Garmadon as well before he was revived. The original Garmadon from seasons 1, 2, and then leading into his sensei form was really cool to see. Garmadon has just been a big staple of Ninjago moving forward. I love the way that he acts, I love the way that he interacts with the other ninja, and he interacts with Lloyd and Wu. He's just great. I love Garmadon as a character, I think he's awesome, and I can't wait to see what else he's going to do in future Ninjago seasons, because he is one of the only Ninjago villains that is still around. Now, he has had his fair share of deaths, obviously, as he has died before and come back, but I don't think he's going to be doing that again. I think at this point, Garmadon is here to stay, and I cannot wait to see what he does in the future. So yeah, guys, that'll just about wrap it up for my ranking of the Ninjago villains. Of course, there are some villains that you can argue should have been on the list, as they could be, again, considered primary villains. These were just the characters that I thought deserved to be on the list and deserved to be mentioned. And again, these are just my opinions, so feel free to leave your own list down below in the comment section. And with that being said, that'll just about do it for this video here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. That'll just about do it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, as always, don't forget to give it a huge thumbs up rating. And of course, remember to hit the subscribe button if you've not done so already. Once again, guys, the comment section is yours for the various discussions that you would like to have regarding this topic. Or if you just had a comment of a general nature, that's fine as well. In the description, you'll find links to my other forms of social media, whether it be my Twitter, my Instagram, my Patreon, or my merch. Be sure to support me on all those platforms if you would like to. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video here. My name is TannerFishies, and with that, I bid you farewell.